I was super excited when I heard about the Spyro Reignited Trilogy coming to PS4 and Xbox One. A full HD remake of some of my favourite PS1 games ever? Yes please! Toys for Bob and Activision released the game to a warm reception. The reviews were generally positive. Spyro was back on form. But then the grumbling began. There was talk of something missing, a key component to the game that could ruin the experience for a large portion of gamers. The lack of subtitles in cutscenes. While the game does have subtitles during gameplay and character interactions, the pre-rendered cutscenes are totally devoid of them. Understandably, many deaf and hard of hearing gamers were angered by this. Important story beats and plot points were made inaccessible to a large part of the gaming community due to the absence of subtitles. So how on earth could Activision and Toys for Bob neglect to include this vital accessibility option? Activision revealed the reason for this conspicuous exclusion in a statement. When Toys for Bob set out to make an awesome game collection, there were certain decisions that needed to be made throughout the process. The team remained committed to keep the integrity and legacy of Spyro that fans remembered intact. The game was built from the ground up using a new engine for the team, Unreal 4, and was localised in languages that had not previously been attempted by the studio. While there's no industry standard for subtitles, the studio and Activision care about the fans' experience, especially with respect to accessibility for people with different abilities, and will evaluate going forward. This statement has provoked further anger from gamers. It appears as though Activision made a conscious decision not to include subtitles during the development of the remake. As per their statement, the game was completely rebuilt from scratch, so it wasn't a case of porting the originals and redoing a few textures. There was more work involved than you might initially think. But surely, subtitling the cutscenes should have been considered a priority. What appears to be the case is that, rather than there being any technical limitation or time constraint, Activision did not include subtitles because they weren't required to. In their statement, the publisher claimed there was no industry standard for the inclusion of subtitles in video games. That claim conflicts with what others in the industry have stated. According to accessibility specialist Ian Hamilton on Twitter, it absolutely is an industry standard. Activision's statement is simply incorrect. It doesn't have to be a legal or cert requirement for it to be standard. We're in 2018, not 1998. The entire industry voluntarily including subtitles means including them is an industry standard. Following the link on Hamilton's Twitter page takes you to GameAccessibilityGuidelines.com, a collaborative effort between game studios, specialists and academics to provide guides and references for developers to avoid excluding sections of the gaming community. The site suggests accessibility options to including games, including subtitles, and provides examples of best practice to follow for their inclusion. One of these examples is Destiny 2, which shows subtitles during its opening cinematic, and Destiny 2 is published by Activision. So if subtitles have become more common for inclusion in games, how is Activision unaware of this industry standard? That's the thing, they are perfectly aware that subtitles are an essential accessibility feature. What the publisher actually means when they say industry standard is legal requirement. There is nothing in place that requires Activision to have subtitles included within the games they release. This means that, if they don't feel it is worth the financial investment or time to have the developers code them in, they don't have to. That is, quite frankly, utterly outrageous. Here's some figures for you. According to the UK-based charity Action on Hearing Loss, more than 11 million people suffer some form of hearing loss in the United Kingdom. That's almost 17% of the population. These numbers are just within the UK. In the US, up to 20% of the population suffers hearing loss. That is a potentially massive part of Spyro's audience that cannot enjoy the game's story due to a lack of subtitles. Let's try and work out some numbers. Let's assume that Spyro will sell 2 million copies in the first 2 months on sale. This would be a similar sales figure to another popular remake from Activision, Crash Insane Trilogy, which sold 2.5 million copies within the first couple of months on sale on PS4. Spyro Reignited Trilogy is available on multiple platforms and is a similarly popular return for a beloved character, so I think 2 million is a reasonable figure to use. So that's 2 million copies of the game out in the wild, being played and enjoyed by gamers. If we assume that our figures for hearing loss in the UK, 17% of the population, remains constant everywhere the game is sold, and we apply the same figure to the 2 million people that own the game, then we have 340,000 people with hearing loss that play Spyro. That's 340,000 people that would benefit from subtitles in cutscenes but are unable to because they aren't included in the game in the first place. Activision's decision not to include subtitles is a shockingly bad one, and the backlash they have received online is not surprising in the slightest. The implication that the time and money required to include this accessibility option is not worth it is, frankly, disgusting, and as of the time of writing, Activision have not stated that they will add the option in a future patch, instead rolling out the non-committal wording, "We will evaluate going forward." That is an incredibly ambiguous response. Does this mean we could see subtitles in future updates to the game? Maybe not. Crash Insane Trilogy, which Activision released back in 2017, also lacked subtitles at launch and still doesn't have them. What this situation has really drawn attention to is that there are some publishers out there that don't consider accessibility options a priority for inclusion in a game. This can unfairly exclude a large number of gamers. If there isn't an industry requirement for subtitles, as Activision has stated, then there absolutely needs to be one, and it needs to happen sooner rather than later. Hi everyone, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this opinion piece, I guess. Not really a theory, was it? Anyway, I'll be back to doing theories in the next few days, so look forward to more about the Dragon Prince, Hilda, and also Netflix's new She-Ra series. If you'd like to see more from me, click the box over on the left, or tap my face up above to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.